Well, the time is just gone 19 minutes past nine as we continue with the broadcast this morning. And we are now focusing on the African continent. We are focusing on Sudan, serious situation developing in Sudan, the crisis in Sudan. We covered it last week and we will continue providing coverage. And at this point in time, we have learned about evacuations that are in full swing as countries around the world are assisting in extracting thousands of their citizens. And we're going right now to join South Sudan-based journalists. We're speaking with Manyuon Mayen. Manyuon, good morning to you and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Inayat, and I'm glad to be hosted by you this morning.
Yes, we've seen reports coming through with regards to evacuation of citizens and countries around the world are now racing to extract their citizens from Khartoum. And at the same time, we're learning of millions of Sudanese and thousands of foreign diplomats, aid workers, and these are people that have found themselves in a war zone at this point in time. How serious is the situation right now?
Thank you so much for having me in this particular show. Basically, the situation in Sudan is quite alarming and worrying. As I speak now, tens of thousands are stranded across the Sudanese borders, trying to cross to other countries like South Sudan, my country, where I come from. And at the border of Ethiopia, I talked to one of my friends this morning who is evacuating his family to cross to the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa, and then connect to the East African countries later. On the other hand, you will get to understand that most of the Sudanese are at the border of the Chad, and and others are at the border of Egypt, trying to cross to Egypt uh, possible rescuer. As I mentioned earlier, the Sudanese crisis is actually different from the first, incident when Omar Bashir was hosted, because this one has resulted into bloodshed, and then at the same time you could see that there is a looming humanitarian crisis. People are displaced, and it is really so concerning that the foreign countries are also evacuating their nationals, evident by Japan, by the USA, and I believe South Africa is in the pipeline, and other countries, especially my country, South Sudan. They also evacuated citizens from Sudan to South Sudan at the border of Ren, which is bordering Sudan. So, in a nutshell, I would say that the Sudanese crisis the Sudanese the Sudanese crisis now has gone to a different level where it is threatening uh, human lives.
Well, we've heard about fighter jets that have bombed the capital. We've heard about the main airport that has been at the center of fighting. We hear about convoys involved in evacuations. We hear of military planes, foreign countries like Italy, for instance, military planes evacuating people out of Sudan. So it does appear that this situation is extremely serious. But again, this entire question surrounding the ceasefire as well, which I covered last week. And at this point in time, looking at the Sudanese, the armed forces, looking at this nationwide ceasefire that is taking place. What is the latest? Is there any likelihood of the ceasefire taking place, and will it hold under the circumstances?
Yeah, the ceasefire. If I'm to tell you, within the 72 hours of the ceasefire was already violated by by the two warring parties in Sudan, even though they had committed themselves to observing the ceasefire. So you would get to understand that the ceasefire which was agreed for 72 hours became violated before the 72 hours ended, and that shows that the two parties are not committed to they are not committed to making sure that they consider the citizens, they consider the the partners, they consider the the regional bodies that are trying to also send in their inputs, that they are trying that are also trying to send in their concerns for the Sudanese for the Sudanese people. And I believe the ceasefire was meant basically uh, to allow actually the foreign countries, the vulnerable group of people, to evacuate the Sudanese capital Khartoum and its twin city Omdurman. But it is quite a surprise that the two warring parties violated the ceasefire before it ended. So, if I'm to answer your question, I would say that the ceasefire in Sudan is suffering is suffering setback, and at the same time, yesterday they and at the same time yesterday there were also reports of violations, and also a report of the resumption of the fighting around the base, the bases controlled by paramilitary group, that is the Rapid Support Forces. So what is not clear is were they fighting alone or they were attacked. So that's what is not clear. But already the ceasefire is suffering a serious setback.
Yes. No, I see there is a huge international concern. We've seen the United Nations already issue a statement that they are going to meet. We've seen the US express their concern. The United Kingdom are talking about 4,000 of their citizens. The whole issue surrounding Egypt, and there have been reports about the ambassador, the Egyptian ambassador, denying that the Sudanese armed forces, that the country's assistant military attaché was killed by the rapid support forces that you have been speaking about. So at this point in time, there is massive international concern. What interventions do you think at this point in time would avert or this crisis, or looking at all these concerns? We've heard also about Arab nations evacuating their citizens out of Sudan. So this is going right across the entire world. And what needs to be done right now, Manyuon?
Yeah, thank you so much. To end the ongoing crisis in Sudan, I think typically the two warring parties must agree on something, and as well as actually silencing the gun. So this is the core of it. However, the challenge is, they must not agree without a third party. The third parties are the people you were mentioning, the international community, the regional bodies like IGAD, and at the same time, the regional bodies like African Union. So here, once the two warring parties agree on something, then they need to be engaged by the regional partners. I understand the IGAD, the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, convenes a virtual meeting on the Sudanese situation on the 16th of this month. But they are supposed to continue to continually to regularly engage. They need to constantly engage such that they get to understand if there is no way of them getting to Khartoum, because of the standoff, then they should basically convince another eager country. Could be South Sudan, could be Djibouti, could be Ethiopia, so that they discuss the situation in Sudan. So what it needs now is a serious extraordinary meeting, or maybe summit, such that the various dignitaries get to also come up with ideas which are worth implementing, such that the two military leaders of Sudan are stopped from destroying their country. So this is what is basic now. On the other hand, uh, the United States, or maybe the international community, must do beyond press releases, because these press releases here are written and sent to the media practitioners, sent to the journalists. The journalists are yes, are reporting about it, but they need to do something beyond the press releases by engaging the Sudanese warring parties. Because, okay, now they are committed to war, they are committed to fighting themselves, but not attending to the press releases. So they have less time to listen to this, but the action need to be taken. They need to talk to them on phones, other social platforms, such that they cease from the war, because it is all about the Sudanese people. It is all about their country, such that their country is really rescued from being from being actually destroyed completely. So this is actually my take. So the regional bodies, the international community should come up with a modality which is aimed at engaging the Sudanese leaders. If they are willing to talk to each other, then they can be called to maybe two of the eager countries, such that they hear out their grievances, and their grievances are addressed. So this is what I think should be done.
Well, I think what you're saying is very, very true because at this point in time, and look here, understandably and rightfully so, all these countries are concerned about their very own citizens and evacuating their own citizens, concerned about their safety, about the security and the well being of their own citizens. But they also need to prioritize what impact this is going to have on the millions of Sudanese as well. And I think this is extremely important. It is, yes, it is about their own citizens, about evacuating them and getting them to safety. But under severe threat, should the situation persist, are millions of Sudanese who have already suffered for a very, very long time.
Yes, yes. Yeah, if you get back to the Sudanese history, especially after President Bashir was ousted, then you would know that the country has been undergoing a very serious crisis, but in silence. I was personally in Khartoum in January 2022, and I witnessed a series of I witnessed actually many people suffering in silence, and I believe this has now finally resulted to the war that we're talking about now. But regardless of the threats, we regardless of the threats, so the partners, or if I can say the international community, can rather establish the root cause, the 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 the, the root cause of the whole issue, and then now be able to engage the leaders, because successful people do what unsuccessful people are not willing to do. And here, if the Sudanese people are unwilling to commit to ceasefire, or maybe commit to peace, such that the people achieve stability, then they then the observatory group, international community, the regional partner, the neighboring countries should really formulate something that aim at rescuing the Sudanese people.
Yes, Manyuon, well, we trust and hope and we pray that sanity prevails, but more importantly, something is done, something is seriously done, something concrete needs to actually come out of this, before even a worse crisis occurs. I mean, it's hit rock bottom as far as this crisis is concerned, and we definitely will follow this story. We will follow developments in Sudan. But for now, we thank you for taking time out and talking to us right here on Solar Media. We wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. I appreciate.
Manyuon Mayen, a South Sudanese journalist, with us this morning. A very, in fact, a critical situation that has developed in Sudan. The time is just gone 9:35. We'll come back. We'll be joined by Minara Chamber of Commerce.